Good day, everyone. My name is Joanna Manalo with my partner, Iren Sevillano, and we are going to discuss and present about El Nino and La Nina. Introduction. El Nino refers to the large-scale ocean atmosphere climate phenomenon linked to a periodic warming in sea surface temperatures across the central and east central equatorial Pacific. El Niño originally referred to an annual warming of sea surface temperatures along the west coast of tropical South America. La Niña refers to the periodic cooling of ocean surface temperatures in the central and east central equatorial Pacific. La Niña originally referred to an annual cooling of ocean waters of the west coast of Peru and Ecuador. What is El Niño? El Niño is a disruption of ocean atmosphere system in the tropical Pacific having important consequences for weather around the globe. Among these consequences are increased rainfall across the southern tier of US and in Peru, which has caused destructive flooding and drought in the West Pacific, sometimes associated with devastating brush fires in Australia. Observations of conditions in the tropical Pacific are considered essential for the prediction of short-term, a few months to 1 year, climate variations. Quick facts about El Niño. The phrase El Niño refers to the Christ child and was coined by fishermen along the coast of Ecuador and Peru to describe the warm ocean current that typically appeared around Christmas time and lasted for several months. El Niño is the second largest driver of the world's weather, second only to normal seasonal warming and cooling, which also brings changes in precipitation patterns. El Niños appeared approximately every 2 to 7 years. They typically last 12 to 18 months. In the early 1990s, a protracted El Niño persisted for 4 years. Another facts about El Niño. El Niños have been documented since the early 70s. More detailed observations from the ships led to instrumental record keeping in the earlier half of the century. It is only since the 1970s. However, the scientists began linking El Niño to massive flooding and severe droughts around the world. About every 4 to 5 years, a pool of cooler than normal water develops off South America. The effects of this cooler water are called La Nina. This usually brings colder winters to the Canadian West and Alaska and drier, warmer weather to the American Southeast. Brief history and origin of El Niño terms. For hundreds of years, South American fishermen have noticed the appearance of warm waters in the eastern Pacific Ocean along the coast of Ecuador and Peru. As the phenomenon typically becomes apparent around Christmas, the name El Niño or the Christ child was eventually bestowed. Noticing that as pressure rises in the east, there is typically an accompanying decrease in the west, with the reverse also true. He coined the term Southern Oscillation to categorize his find. Further study led to the realization that Asian monsoon seasons under certain barometric conditions were often linked to drought in Australia, Indonesia, India, and parts of Africa, and mild winters in western Canada. Not until the late 1960s, a Norwegian meteorologist, Jacob B. Jerknes, a professor at the University of California, established the connection between the changes in sea surface temperatures and the weak winds from the east and heavy rainfall that accompany low-pressure conditions. Ultimately, Bjerknes' discovery led to the recognition that the warm waters of El Niño and the pressure variance of Walker's southern oscillation are interrelated, leading to the full naming of the phenomenon as El Niño Southern Oscillation. Why El Nino occurs? El Nino is thought to occur due to changes in the normal patterns of trade wind circulation. Normally, these winds move westward, carrying warm surface water to Indonesia and Australia, and allowing cooler water to upwell along the South American coast. For reasons not yet fully understood, these trade winds can sometimes be reduced or even reversed. This moves warmer waters toward the coast of South America and raises water temperatures. Warmer water causes heat and moisture to rise from the ocean of Ecuador and Peru, resulting in more frequent storms and torrential rainfall over these normally arid countries. Here is the comparison of normal conditions from El Niño conditions. We all know that climate changes gives a huge impact into our agriculture. Here are some effects of El Niño in our crops.
What is La Nina? So, La Nina is a phenomenon that describes cooler than normal ocean surface temperatures in the eastern and central Pacific Ocean, region close to the equator of the west coast of South America. In some parts of the world, La Nina causes increased rainfall, while in other regions, it causes extreme dry conditions. The conditions that cause La Nina recur every few years and can persist for as long as 2 years. The effects of La Nina. So the effects of La Nina are experienced globally, with catastrophic floods, hurricanes and cyclones in countries on the western part of the Pacific and, on the other hand, bushfires and drought along the west coast of the USA and East Africa. Farms are adversely affected, and crops can be produced as expected. This causes food and agricultural produce shortage. Agricultural produce is considered by many a primary production material, and if this is affected, imports and exports will also be affected, leading to an increase in the cost of importing or exporting other products. This is usually passed down to the final consumer who, in a way or another, may not have been affected by La Nina. Why La Nina occurs? La Nina is thought to occur due to increases in the strength of the normal pattern of trade wind circulation. Under normal conditions, these winds move westward, carrying warm surface water to Indonesia and Australia and allowing cooler water to upwell along the South American coast. For reasons not yet fully understood, periodically these trade winds are strengthened, increasing the amount of cooler water toward the coast of South America and reducing the water temperatures. Normal and La Nina condition. During normal conditions in the Pacific Ocean, trade winds blow west along the equator, taking warm water from South America towards Asia. To replace the warm water, cold water rises from the depths, a process called upwelling. El Niño and La Niña are two opposing climate patterns that break these normal conditions. Scientists call this phenomena the El Niño Southern Oscillation Cycle.
So definitions, La Nina, it is unusually cold surface water temperatures in the Pacific Ocean caused by strong easterly trade winds. While El Nino is an unusual warm surface water temperatures in the Pacific Ocean caused by weak or reverse direction easterly trade winds. El Nino and La Nina simplified. El Nino is the abnormal heating of Earth's ocean surface in the Pacific, while La Nina is the abnormal cooling of Earth's ocean surface in the Pacific. Here are some information about the time pattern of El Nino and La Nina. El Nino is usually lasts from a year to 2 years, while La Nina usually lasts 9 to 12 months. The longest El Nino ever recorded lasted is 6 years, while La Nina's longest ever recorded was 3 years. What causes an El Nino and La Nina? El Nino is caused when trade winds allow warm water from the Pacific to flow east. This builds up warm surface water that will soon cause the El Nino. While La Nina is caused when the temperatures drop in the Pacific, also being blown east. This builds up at the coast and will cause a La Nina.
That's all for our report, and thank you for listening.